Okay, hello and good evening, everyone. I'm seeing quite a few people here that I know, and I hope this will add to the discussion since some of you could also, I think, do this talk and give your own perspective about the things I'm going to talk about. I'd just like to say good evening to all the people I don't know yet, and will introduce yourselves in a minute. Just let me tell you a bit about what I'm doing and where I'm doing that. This is the Open University in Ra'anana. It's the campus. We don't have many students around because it is an open university, and most of our students are either studying in study centers all over the country, or many of them just study at home or at work or wherever they find themselves in. They don't have to attend classes, although there are meetings and study groups. And we have about nowadays around 50,000 students. It's a large university. What we are doing, I'm working at the Center for Technologies and Distance Education. This is a university that relies very heavily on technology. A lot of different technologies are used either to broadcast meetings, have live online meetings, or recorded ones. A lot of the students, oh, hello, Ifat, I'm an Open University graduate. Great. We have a lot of different technologies, and maybe some of them will be discussed here. But the most important thing in the place I work at is the fact that we are continually looking at different technologies, and we are following what's happening in the world and in different educational startups to try to locate new technologies or new ways of using existing technology, and to find more ways of making our students more, how can I say, getting closer to their studies, but more comfortably. And that's one of the reasons that we are actually getting used to trying out a lot of things. MOOCs was one of the things we started using, and our enthusiasm about it just brought the university direct administration to think about actually doing MOOCs for ourselves. And parts of my talk will be dedicated to the MOOCs that we have used, but not all of it. And I would be very interested to hear your own experience. What we are going to do now is I'd be very happy if all of you could write a bit in the chat just where you're from and what you're doing, or maybe what is your position if you're working at some sort of educational institution. I'd be very interested to know. So let's give it a few seconds, and please just tell me where you're from and what is your position if you're working at a school or university or some other kind of educational position. Hi, Mickey. Yes. I hope everyone is hearing us all right. And Jay and Rachel. Yeah, hi, Jay. Okay, hi, Shadia. Good. Erev Tov. Hello, good evening, everyone. So let's move along. And the things I'm going to talk about, actually, I try to divide them up for different views. I'm hearing all sorts of noises. So if anyone has a microphone open, please, let's close it. No, no one. Okay, I'll talk a little about how we got to where we are nowadays with MOOCs, a little about the timeline and the status in 2017. I think quite a few people might know that, so I'll try to hurry along. But what I mainly want to deal with is MOOCs and the organization, whether you're working at a university, at a school, at some sort of corporation, MOOCs have a certain contribution, or you can use them to contribute to your work life or maybe to your personal life, and we'll talk about that. And also, I'd like to give a special thought to MOOCs and teachers in general, what teachers can do with MOOCs or how they can benefit from the format. And we'll do a little thinking together, because I think many people who take MOOCs sometimes look at them as just, a pastime, or maybe they are dedicated and want to have a certificate. But it pays to think what you can do with this format for maybe other purposes, or to advance your work situation and so on. And we'll talk about that too. So let me see what you've written. Yep. Lynn, hello. Great. So you are also developing online courses, and Yahel is working at Chimia Bareshet. Great. And the Davidson, which is a great institute. Ifat from LA, hello. Great. And Eleanor from Jerusalem. Oh, Adam, you're far away in China. And Reuven, of course. And Nelly, yes. You organize books, and I hope I have something to interest you this evening. I'd be very interested to hear your contributions. Okay, and Chen, hello. And we'll start. Okay. So I'd like to know at first, let's see if we're moving along. Yes. Have you ever participated in a MOOC? And if so, how many? Please write on our whiteboard. I'd be very interesting to know. Some of you I know took many, but let's see. Numbers. And if you haven't, I'd be interested to know if you never thought about it. That would also be interesting. So, please, just click the button with the A, write some text. Have you taken MOOCs? How many? Prefer the chat? Don't you want to try the whiteboard? Try to write on the screen. No rights. Aryeh, if you could just give them rights to write. Yes. Great. So some of you have taken a few MOOCs. Some of you haven't ever. And the next question is, if you haven't taken, and if you've taken a few MOOCs, or one at least, did you earn a certificate? Have you ever persevered to the bitter end? And you can answer in the chat if it's more comfortable. An online class counts, Ifat, if it was an open one, if it was something that was not, a regular university course for only the university students. For me, it's important. Yes, Jay, some people get to the end. Some people do earn a certificate. Okay, great. I have to tell you that I've taken, I think, maybe 20 MOOCs, which I have done to the end, but no certificates, and I usually don't finish all the assignments and quizzes. Yes, I use them as a library mostly. Some of them were very interesting. Some of them were not so interesting, but to finish, you need something else, I think. So I can see that. How many certificates were not free? Okay. Some at the beginning, certificates were free, but now they are beginning to costs money. So we'll talk about it a little in a while. Um, let's just remind ourselves how we got here. I think most people, or most people who were interested in MOOCs, know this know this timeline. But just to recap, MOOCs are a development of a movement that actually was at the first decade of the century. Yes, the open source, open content, open courseware. And the first MOOCs were kind of an exercise in pedagogy. There were Canadian MOOCs and some American that were conducted by teachers and by university professors who wanted to examine a new way of conducting an online course. Not a very regular classic course, academic course, but something new. And the connectivist courses, which were the first actually courses, and then the ones that were called MOOCs, these were the first courses I encountered when they began to talk about MOOCs, and I found them very, very fascinating. These courses were based mostly about the work of the students or the participants, not about the regular transference of knowledge, but about constructing knowledge. They were more constructivist in nature. And, oh, great. Were you there? Did you join in WikiEducator? Great. So the first MOOCs, connectivist MOOCs, and then later developed when the MOOC craze began, yes, and a few huge courses by very prestigious universities were actually began to appear. And the fact that MOOC became a sort of trademark for certain people or for certain organizations, for us, at least in my university, when we used to talk about it, that was a wonder, because most professors we knew then were actually looking at it very curiously and didn't treat it very seriously and thought it was a nice exercise, but it had no future. And then we saw Coursera appear and edX and the other big providers. And it began to look as if it was becoming an alternate route for academic institutions. What happened, Jay? I'm sorry. Jay is exactly the opposite happened to you, if you can elaborate. Anyway, when we're talking about the big providers, we're talking about something else that became of the MOOCs. Yes, it was becoming more institutionalized, in my opinion. And the fact that these became something of a PR wonder. Many universities considered joining those platforms in order to show what they had to teach and show their own professors and the way they taught. It became a sort of badge of honor, yes, a very prestigious position to offer MOOC in prestigious platforms. And I'd like to progress to the last two and a half years, where those platforms became very large. They were a lot of investments done in either the platform itself or in the production of expensive courses, production-wise. And what we're talking about today is a further development of these courses, which I'd like to talk about now. We are talking about a sort of a little different product. It's become a global phenomenon. We see a huge amount of courses opening along these years. Some of them have been discontinued. Some of them are still here. But new courses are opening all the time. And if you look at the stats that were published at the end of 2016, we're talking about 58 million students, more than 700 universities or all sorts of educational institutions that are involved in MOOCs in some way or another, and nearly 7,000 courses. And there are new courses being added to the platforms all the time. If we're looking at the distribution of the MOOC providers, and MOOC providers can be those who own the platform, but they can also be corporations that are using existing platforms. Coursera, of course, is the first, the largest. edX, and the third place, which is interesting, yes, it's the Chinese edX-based, open edX-based platform. FutureLearn, which is British, and Udacity, which is also American, but it specializes in courses which cost money, so it's a little different from the other four. When we're looking at the subjects taught in these MOOCs, we can see that there's a fair distribution. Of course, computer science and business management are a larger segment because they're considered more applicable, I think. And people who really want a certificate can use them better. So, but we can see that there's a very nice and variety. And of course, education and teaching. If we look at that, there are quite a few courses and specializations around education. And the others, the big platforms are the ones that dominate. They dominate all sorts of news articles and the media, but they are not the only ones. And I'd like to just point out that along the way, there are all sorts of interesting ventures, which are also MOOCs. And kind of interesting to know. One of them, for example, is the Who class, which is a MOOC dedicated to Doctor Who, the series. And it's a very nice course. It goes on and on and on. And they're also contributing to preserving the series because this is a television series that started in the 60s, I think. And they're preserving quite a lot of the series, and they're putting it online, and people can join and enjoy. Of course, this is a course that is examining the fans and fandom also, and it has become the hub of a small community, which is a very interesting development. And of course, it's conducted not on the big platforms. It's a website of its own. Another one, for example, is a course that is no longer active, but it's still online. It's there for your enjoyment. It was a very interesting course conducted in 2013, I think, which dealt with instructional design, actually. It was there also when it was conducted. It was also had a blog, and it was very, very much based on the activities and student teaching. And so you can see another form, a totally different form of a course. Another example is not a platform, but an aggregating website, which is an Open Up Ed. It's the Pan-European website. Just a minute, let me move along. Can you hear me? Because I'm hearing all sorts of noises. Just confirm that you can hear me without the noise. Okay, great. The Open Up Ed, that's a Pan-European MOOC initiative. It was founded by the EADTU, which is the European Association of Distance Teaching Universities, in collaboration with the European Commission. This was not one single platform for MOOCs, but it was a website in which different universities offered their own MOOCs, which they had on their own platforms. And this was the hub in which you could find those MOOCs and catalog them. It was also the founder of many research activities and different policy studies. And they also try to show a different face or a different direction for European MOOCs in order to counter the mostly American-dominated arena in the Mooc market. Now this, I think, this next XMOOC, CMOOC discussion, I think it would be quite known to you. And I am putting it on just to remind ourselves that not long ago, we actually talked about a totally different kind of MOOCs. The CMOOCs, which were more constructivist, and they were collaborative, and they were based on the students as constructing knowledge and actually almost teaching the course themselves. The teachers were the guide on the side. They were actually responsible just to nudge people along and kind of summarize what's happening, but they were not the main leading energy in the course. The content was produced as an open educational resource many times. Most of the content, or maybe all, was open access. The whole attitude was one of openness and constructiveness and collaboration. Now, this is almost opposed to the classic academic course XMOOC, which was more transformative in nature, which was based on short video lectures and quizzes and learning all kinds of reading assignments. But the course was very, I think, conservative in nature. Yes, the teachers were the experts, and most of the material was already prepared and in the website, and the students or the participants could participate in the course, do their own thing, give their own contributions in the forums or discussion groups, but they had no direct influence on the format or on the construction of the course. Nowadays, I see many examples of courses that try to use all the spectrum of pedagogies that there are. Many courses try to incorporate real-world projects and start all kinds of resources that are being developed by the students or the participants themselves. And therefore, this very, very sharp division, I think, is being today a little less radical and divided. And I think that we can talk about a whole spectrum of formats, which for me, preferably, is supposed to be like a shelf in which you can just pick the ones that are suitable or more suitable for the assignment at hand. If you're producing a MOOC that is supposed to be very formal and is supposed to, at the end, prepare people for a certain test and so on, you can use some of the tools from one shelf and then use some of the tools from the other shelf. Whichever works best and whichever fits your participants is the best thing. Now, let's look a little bit about what's happening at the, I'll say, the MOOC market or the arena of the big platforms, because these are the ones that I think show best of all that the MOOCs have become a product. They are no longer an adventure in education in many cases. I think for some people there still are, but nowadays many of the MOOCs are products. They are a lot of money is invested in creating them, and many of the creators actually hope to get a return on their investments. So what we see nowadays, I think, in many of the big platforms, in Coursera and edX for sure, is a turn from a massive open course to self-paced courses to a sort of Netflix model or regular sessions in which if you are enrolled in one course, you can either gobble it up in your own pace, learn it for a long time when you're changing sessions and jumping into new sessions all the time. And this resulted in a very different kind of experience for MOOC participants. Instead of having about 2 sessions a year, for example, in which there are thousands of students and a lot of activities happening in the forums and so on, the MOOC has become a more solitary experience, I think. The fact that people are enrolling in order to do the course and not experience a sort of collaborative experience is very telling. And this is something that is quite visible today with the different credentials, and we'll talk about it in a minute. Monetization, yeah, that's one word that you see a lot when you talk about MOOC and MOOC platforms. You can see nowadays many of the courses have enriched materials for paying participants. Many of the some courses, but quite a lot of them are paid-only courses. You can see courses in which once you enroll, you can see a unit or two, and after that, they ask you to enroll and pay money. There are also courses which are SPOCs, small private online courses, which universities develop for their own students and maybe for some others who will pay for the pleasure. And this is something that is becoming more and more prevalent. Also, the whole concept of credentials and degree programs. There are many bodies who were quite worried what is going to happen with credentialing in MOOCs. Universities were thinking about using MOOCs in their own programs. But the problem of accreditation is quite a recurring one. I know that many of the universities here in Israel that are involved in MOOCs found it a very challenging problem. And some of them found an answer to that by deciding that their own students who took the course and took it at the MOOC could come to the university and take the exam. And that's one way of giving credit for the course. But the problem of credentials and accreditation and quality control for these courses has not been solved, I think. And there are still many who think that MOOCs would actually demand a different treatment than regular university courses. And when we see credentialing, just a minute here. Yep. When we are talking about credentials and degree programs, please remember that I'm not only talking about university degrees, but those platforms, Coursera, edX, and maybe more, are offering credentials of their own. And all sorts of specializations or micromasters or all kinds of programs which are comprising several courses that you can take on the platform and gain some sort of certificate are now beginning to take their own place. And there are all sorts of corporations, for example, that are expecting workers or their own employees to do these courses and gain those credentials. Also, the corporate training aspect of these courses. Using MOOCs for corporate training, for workplace learning, or professional development has become quite an attractive proposition. If there are courses which were developed by very good and professional organizations, they can be incorporated into the learning, sorry, into the learning, inner learning in the corporations or in organizations, professional companies. And we do see nowadays employers who actually enroll their employees as a cohort in different courses. I was in a lecture the other day by Yael Doron, who is the manager of Google Education in Israel, and she was talking about the fact that they gained many new applicants who are having a trouble to get used to what is demanded by those companies. For example, Google. Google is expecting people who have a BA in computer science to know certain things. And sometimes those degrees are not enough, or they are not updated, or some of the knowledge that Google needs will not be there. And they are using MOOCs and internal courses that they have developed in order to let people gain this experience and gain this knowledge. Some of these courses have also been opened online, and they are inviting people who are applicants to do the course and show what they can do, because their formal education is not enough, which is, to me, seems like a very a very nice development. Yes, that some of the university professors I talked with actually thought that it would be not serious of them to try to be very updated with their degrees. And this is shows, I think, that corporations are not waiting for the university to catch up. For universities, I think they should be a worry. And I think another trend, which is to me the most interesting now, is the fact that MOOCs are becoming localized. Many of the platforms that we know were either American or English speaking in general, but the world is larger than that. Not everybody can speak English, and not everybody wants to gain their professional knowledge in a language that is foreign to them. And also, different cultures, different languages, and different educational cultures do demand that we answer to the needs of the larger population. And so what we see nowadays is, yeah, exactly, Jay. Localized platforms are on the rise, and many of the new courses that are now appearing in the statistics are courses which are becoming localized, either as translated courses or are as originally created in local languages. Just show a few examples of these. This is the Indian national platform that started working last year, Swayam. It is based on, I think, a Microsoft product, but they offer courses in local languages for schools, for professional certificates, and for diploma. And this is a developing enterprise, and I think in the next few years, this is a very, very real direction in which this whole market goes. This is Edrak. Edrak is the Arabic platform. It is based on Open edX. This is the Jordanian funded platform. There are also, I think, at least another one that is in Saudi Arabia. But the courses in Arabic that it offers are courses from many universities from all over the Arab world, and also translated courses from the edX platform. And many of these courses are professional development courses. And this is ours, okay? Campus. This is based on the Open edX also. It's the Hebrew, the Israeli platform. It has just been opened last year, still on the beginning stages. Digital Israel is the project that runs this whole enterprise, and it's the national project for digital learning. They actually are, yeah, they actually are aiming very similarly to these other national platforms to increase the general public's access to education, but yes, to professional development and lifelong learning. And it would be interesting to see what they are actually doing in the next few years. I can just tell you that and we have been involved in some of these projects, and they have several directions. One of them is to encourage universities to create MOOCs for either the global edX platform, and then in English, but also for local use in Hebrew, so that these MOOCs would be available to students and to the general public, academic courses, which would probably be enabling the students to gain academic credit also. Other courses are for high school students. And these are supposed to be taken by high school students, some of them in preparation for the matriculation exam, and some of them as a preparation for academic studies. This is all in its very beginning, but there's a lot of activity and a lot of money that is being put in these different projects. So we are looking forward to seeing what 2017 will bring. It has also given a very nice energy and very positive energy to the acceptance of technologies, and the fact that online courses are no longer something that you do only in the institution itself or maybe on some other organization's platform, but also something that is directed and accepted by the establishment and the educational establishment here. Okay, so let's think a little about what a MOOC does to the university and what a MOOC gives back to the university that produces it, because I think that it's not only that a MOOC can, actually be of use to participants, but the institution itself, when you're creating a MOOC, you're actually gaining a lot. And our MOOC project, the Open University of Israel's MOOC project, ran from 2013 to 2015, not 10-15, okay? I'll change that. It would be a very historic project otherwise. Okay, it was a pilot. It was considered a pilot and a trial. It was never incorporated into the course catalog of the university. It was aimed at the general public. And the concept was that since the university has already opened a lot of books online, let's take those books and build the courses around them and open a course for anyone who was interested without many pre-requirements. And so in those 2 years, 5 courses were produced. You can see the names here. I won't really describe each and every one. But what I can say is that the whole thing was a very a small project, but a very successful one from the point of view of the participants, which were very enthusiastic, and the activity on the website and the final comments that they all uploaded to the general forums were great. What happened is, just a minute, back here. Those courses for us, since we were just beginning to play around with the MOOC format, and we didn't want to go on to someone else's platform. It was very important to us to try to look at this as a pilot for all the stages of producing a MOOC. So we used the Moodle LMS that we had already, a different instance of Moodle. But what I would like to show you here is the way it evolved. The first MOOCs were a general Moodle LMS. I think anyone who knows Moodle would recognize this instantly. What we did there was use the platform without many changes, but try to develop a very well-constructed and clear course with a lot of support and with a lot of attention to what the participants did in the course. We allowed them quite a lot of options to discuss and to upload their own opinions and resources if they wanted to. Also, we gave a lot of attention to accessibility, and all the, for example, the lectures were also on video, but also in audio and transcripts and so on. We used badges, and we did a lot of work to try to see what these participants actually wanted to do in a course. Okay, we had the basic, but we changed quite a lot along the way. So what we can say for the first phase of this trial was that a lot of lessons were learned. The professors who participated and created materials for those courses learned a lot, because for the first time they had to create lectures which were not aimed at the students they knew. They didn't know who was the audience for these courses, and they had to rewrite the whole course many times because they wanted to give a lot of extra knowledge that they didn't know if people had, and so on. They learned to work in the studio. They learned to, to lecture to the camera, and so on. Although some of them had experience with that, still it was not the same to do lectures, and quite a few. They had about 25 hours of video in one of these courses, and it was quite a lot of work. A lot of work about the technical aspects of these courses, about copyright management, about online pedagogy, and the whole cross-institutional effort was very impressive. Many departments took part of that. And I think this was a very steep learning curve, but it was worth it, because when we went to the second stage, which I'll describe shortly, you could see that people have learned a lot from this first stage. Another thing that I'd like to tell you about is the problems of design and outsourcing tasks. Many times the department that deals with creating MOOCs is not usually a very large body, and many times you are actually dealing with the day-to-day work of, for example, our department. The daily work is to support the learning environment of the whole Open University. MOOCs were kind of an addition. It was a pilot. It was not the main thing to do, but it demanded a lot of effort and a lot of time. And we began to use outsourcing, and we began to use outside people for that. And the whole effort of learning to work with people who were not part of the department, who were actually freelancers and so on, was a very different experience for us. But I think it was quite worth it, because we are seeing more and more the need to work with people on short-timed projects. And this is actually one of the first times that we did that. But nowadays it's becoming quite the norm. Another aspect of the first MOOCs, but of course it's going to be a bigger and bigger part of the later ones, is the analytics. The whole aspect of using the MOOC as a living lab. The fact that we had an audience which cooperated and collaborated and gave us a lot of data about what they did in the MOOCs. Just a minute, Nelly, I see your question and I'll deal with that. Was a godsend. And we actually tried our first steps in doing massive learning analytics about these courses. And we continue that today. Nelly asked, how did they decide on the topic of the MOOC, I guess? The MOOCs were chosen by the books. If we had a book that was open online and we had the learning materials that were already we were already able to use them because copyright was managed and we had the rights to those books, and there were also some of them were actually ours and some of them were translated, but we had the rights to use them online. That was a good reason to use it in a MOOC, especially when those professors that were asked to do the courses joined us in producing many other learning materials. So the choice was not open to anybody. It was the university administration that elected which courses to create. And the professors who wanted to join did that after they were asked to do it, okay? All of them, I think, worked very, very hard, but they didn't regret it because they learned quite a lot. And nowadays, you can see that their own courses, the regular courses that they are teaching at the university, many times are, you can see the influence of the MOOC experience on their own courses. Now, this was the first phase, and the second phase was totally different, I think. The MOOC pilot was finished in 2015. We didn't close the platform. It was left open as self-paced courses with no teachers on site. Those were after 2 session-based times that we ran those courses. Nowadays, they're open. They will, I think, at the end of this semester, we'll have to close them down because they're no longer updated. And but it was a very interesting experience to see what people did with those courses along the way. The second phase was a different one. This is, I think, one of the biggest MOOCs that we had here in Israel. It's a 4-course collection. It's called Academic English. It's a self-paced course for independent study. For those preparing for the English exam in the university. It's mainly dedicated to reading comprehension of academic texts, and this was created from the beginning as a self-paced independent study course. It was a different experience for us because it had a very generous budget from the from Malag Vatat, which is the Council for J. Please help. If you can write the whole explanation for Vatat Malag, I would appreciate it. But we had the budget and we had the opportunity to create Higher Education Council. Oh, great. Yes. So this course was aimed to be for all the students in Israel. And of course, it was open so anyone can study in the website. But the main thing was that it was created from the beginning to be a self-study. There were no teachers on the site. The whole website is for independent students. And so we had to create something that was very, very carefully thought out, and the whole way students operate in the site was supposed to be quite seamless, responsive, to perform very well in mobile phones and other gadgets and so on. So it was a very different call from the Moodle LMS we used before, although it is in Moodle, but the whole design was updated, and it's not really a classic Moodle format. And I think the whole list here of what changes we made in the design, in the instructional design of the courses, the videos, and the learning analytics aspects, it was a huge advancement when you consider the first phase that was something quite basic and not, let's say, it was done as a pilot. We were not aiming to be the best website around, but it was supposed to be a very good course. This, on the other hand, was supposed to be a very, very impressive and useful course. And that actually, when we see the whole activity on this website, for us, it's very satisfying, because right now we have around 20,000 participants which are actually using this website. And it would be interesting to see the different researches going on now at the activity on this website. And what we did then, yes, nice to know, even, that your grandson enjoys it. I hope he does. But actually, we're following quite closely to see, because it is aimed to be for self-study, but the whole point is to let people learn and pass the exam. And so this is a very good exercise for us, because we are going to have the results in April, the results of the exam, and see if people have actually done better or what they have learned. Another factor that you have to consider is that the exams themselves have to change. If people study in this sort of site and in this sort of way, I'll just show you in a minute what I mean. The whole examination has to be changed, and the way people are expected to perform in it has to be changed, which has not yet happened. Just let me show you. The courses are built in units. Each unit has a center text, which they can download and read. They can also read it online. They have very, very close instructions about what they have to do in each unit and in each lesson. The videos it's more a YouTube-like experience, but the videos have interactive parts in them. Every few minutes, you have a question, or you have some sort of activity that you have to do. We have found that this hopefully would help people stay in the video and practice in the video what they have learned to improve retention. We are still examining it. We're getting a lot of data, and the learning analytics aspect of this website is going to be very interesting and challenging. Oh, the link. I'll just give you the link in a minute. Here it is. Okay, you just have to have a username and password, but it's free and it's open, and I'd really like to hear what you think about that. Now, for the last part of this talk, I would really like your opinion. Anyone who's taking a MOOC and anyone who's actually read about them or experienced them in any way, if you're a teacher or if you're working in any educational institution, whatever, What do you think you would learn as a participant in a MOOC? Not as a teacher, not as an instructional designer, but as a participant or a student in a MOOC. What were you thinking when you took a MOOC? How was it to be a student or a participant in a MOOC, in an online course? Preferably a massive one, but if it was not massive, this is okay. Could you offer some thoughts? Those people who took a MOOC, how did it feel to be a participant? What did you learn from it? If at all. You can respond in the chat, but I can open the whiteboard. Here it is, open. You can actually type on screen or answer in the chat. Okay, I'm happy you enjoyed it, but please try to think, if you're an educator or if you're teaching something or a trainer, how did it feel to be a participant? What did you learn from being a student or a participant in a MOOC? Oh, great, Eleanor. Yes. It's not required, so you do not feel any need to complete it. Right. Of course, it is voluntary. Yes. And Shadia learned more about your learning abilities. Yeah, okay. So if the microphone is open, you're also invited to talk. Yeah. So who wrote on the whiteboard?
That was me, Jay.
Okay, yeah.
I see that I have a microphone now. And I'm thinking of a course I studied about dinosaurs. As a kid, I loved dinosaurs, so why shouldn't I like them now as an adult? And the material was very, very good, but I found that there was no reason for me to be within the course framework for it because all of the material was available by very simple Google searches and YouTube. And so I didn't feel a need for it after a short period of time. The same thing happened with a course about teaching online, which I guess is unfair of me to put in this way, because I'm sure that's true of others of us here. I saw materials and said, why are they choosing that? Why are they good? I don't need this. But it wasn't that I don't need it. There was no interaction that was actually encouraged. So I didn't feel the need for participating that way.
Yes, great. That's very good. I hope you remember this. And just a minute, I'll just read what other people wrote. Did a course on Hadrian's Wall. Oh, yes, Ruven, I remember you told us about that. To know others. So some of you enjoyed the social aspect of a course. Yes, like Nelly, who said she liked getting to know others. Mickey took a MOOC in Moodle and learned how to use the Moodle better. You took a group, which is okay. Oh, the grouping. Yes. Okay. So you either enjoyed the social aspect, learned a lot about the platform itself or the LMS. Jay found out that he didn't need the MOOC actually. He only needed the start, because once he found that he liked this subject and he found where there were many more materials, he could study on his own. He didn't need the the organized MOOC to do that. And I think these are a lot of valid points, because actually, once you're a participant or a student, like I think Shadia said, yes, she learned a little more about her learning abilities. We are all, or many of us, are experienced students, but sometimes you need to become a participant or a student and be a beginner in something in order to feel and to identify what's happening to people who come to these courses like newbies. Okay, they have to find a lot of on their own. They have to learn how to learn in these courses. And I think that being a participant in a course is a very good experience for teachers, also for instructional designers, because we are all very smart about telling other people how they should organize their courses. But once you're in a course and you can see some good stuff, but also some problem areas, and you can see what is needed for the inexperienced student and what is needed for the advanced student, and how you can help them through the platform and through design. This can be a very good experience and a very good learning experience, not only of the topic of the MOOC, but professionally. For us, it's very illuminating to be guests in MOOCs. So these are our explanation when they ask us why we're enrolled in so many MOOCs and we finish none of them. Because I go there to learn about the MOOC, not the stuff in the MOOC. Anyway, Ruven found that being in a course made you conform to the schedule and in your own busy life. Yes, sometimes the group or the need to do an assignment will make you sit down and study, something that sometimes is difficult when you have a very busy daily life. And so it is an experience, I agree with Nelly, that there are learning experiences both professionally and personally. And of course, for teachers, it's a very important thing to sometimes leave their own pedestal or their own position and become a student again and see what these students are seeing and feeling. And for that, some of the MOOCs are very good experience and learning experience. If you were to go on edX or Coursera or some other MOOC provider and look for courses on education, you'd find quite a lot. There are many courses and specializations, which are a collection of several courses which you can take. And at least to look at what the others are doing, but also to experience the way of learning in MOOCs, and also the community that is sometimes created in a good MOOC. A good MOOC usually can help you create a community of like-minded people or to know colleagues, and to create a knowledge community which can help you later on in your work and in your studies. So it's really, to me, an interesting and curious question. Why is it that no more teachers and professors are taking MOOCs? I'm trying to encourage them, but it would be very interesting to know if you are doing the encouraging, if you are succeeding. Are you succeeding in convincing other people around you, educators or professors, university professors, to take a MOOC and see what it's all about? Yep, I'm just looking if there are any questions. Okay, so as for educational courses, some of these courses are very good. Some are terribly boring, I must tell you. Not all of them are good. Not all of education MOOCs are good, but there are some that are really, really great. It doesn't mean that you have to learn something new. Sometimes the things that you will enjoy, or I enjoy, is looking at how other people are teaching or treating subjects that I'm also teaching or treating. And it's very interesting to see how they approach these subjects, how they do their videos, how do they encourage their participants to be more collaborative, and so on. The methodology and the pedagogy that they use is of great interest to me. And I think that if you are interested in online courses, it would be mostly recommended to take part in some of these MOOCs. Now, if you were a participant in a professional development MOOC, what would you gain? I think we've talked about that, but just to repeat myself, maybe. If you are taking a professional development MOOC, yes, a good one, okay, let's say it's an excellent one, what would you hope to achieve? And the people who didn't take any MOOCs, I'd like to hear you too. If you had a very, very good professional development MOOC dealing with education or dealing with the subjects that you actually are teaching or researching, what do you think you would gain to be a participant in it? Practice skills, says Nelly. Yes, I agree. Anyone else? Because, did you? Okay. Yes, Ruven, chance for exchange with distant colleagues. Exactly. What I'm really trying to stress here is that MOOCs, beyond the simple learning, which is excellent, of course, you have a chance to meet other people there. You have a chance to get to know other colleagues or other like-minded people or people who are interested in things you are interested in. That's for sure one of the best reasons, I think, to join a MOOC. And also, there is something that I really find interesting in these kinds of MOOCs. A community of practice that is created there is something quite useful for along the road. Here, Ruven says, I met amazing people on the Adrian MOOC. Great. And yep. Okay, so a community of practice may be something to continue and people to stay in touch with, which can be of interest to you. Also, if you have your personal goals, if you know what you plan to do with yourself for the next year, or if you have some professional goals that you want to achieve, I think really take a look at these MOOCs. Sometimes you'd be surprised about things that you can achieve through a MOOC. Sometimes it will make you sit down and write what you need to write or think about what you need to think and you have no time for. This is a great opportunity. Also, what practically I would advise people thinking about taking educational professional development MOOCs, consult with your supervisor, administrator, whatever. In the university, we have some people that we found out that some of these MOOCs would be actually recognized as professional development. And sometimes if you get a certificate, you could actually gain some hours of professional development if you need them. Or sometimes the certificate would be paid by the university and so on. So try to think proactively about that. Try to write for yourself some goals and some directions to develop yourself in the next month or year, and find a suitable MOOC and see if it will actually energize you and drive you to do better. This is for people like me who are not very, very goal-oriented.
Question?
Yes, of course.
I want to ask something like this. We still haven't solved the problem of having only 24 hours in a day. And to the best of my knowledge, we're not going to be solving it soon.
Yep.
I like to listen to music. I try to read books. I still support a family. I actually like watching television. Sometimes I go on a tiur. Mm-hmm. And I can meet people in various frameworks. For instance, even going to a pub, even though I really don't do that, but I'll say that I do just to make things sound nice.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I'll go see a concert or a play.
Okay.
How is taking part in a MOOC for my own either edification or even professional development
Mm-hmm.
different or special as opposed to all these other activities which I try and fit into my schedule?
I'm not sure it should be different or special. I think that if you like reading books and if you like meeting people and if you like learning new things and going on trips and so on, a MOOC is something similar. You don't have to be totally enwrapped in it. You don't have to do all the assignments or anything that you don't feel like doing. But if you dedicate to me, for example, I can tell you that from the many, many MOOCs I'm enrolled in many of them, I at least found a certain unit or a certain idea or a certain person that to me was a gain. It was something that I was very happy that I did. And what I actually did is like give myself a sort of homework, okay? 1 hour a week, even if I divided it into two and did it on certain days or at night when I was kind of tired. Watch a few lectures or read some stuff. And if you feel that at the end of 1 week or two, you have not gained anything, you can leave and go to something else or read your book. But I really think that, like everything that we do, finding a small bit of time to do something meaningful in is important. I think that trying it out is great. I don't think you need to try out because I think you've already seen quite a few MOOCs. But for me, for example, it was a great way of learning or finding out about stuff that I was curious about and wanted to know if I wanted to continue to learn. It was great taking someone else's MOOC and looking at the lectures and feeling the way people talked about stuff and learning a little about it. It's a very good way, I think, of finding out new areas of research, for example. And also, it can be a lot of fun if there's a fun group. Also, Jay, I'll let you know there are many, many meetups for MOOCsters. And people who take MOOCs kind of tend to, those who are very, I don't know, maybe very busy like you, sometimes they tend to meet and form study groups and they enjoy the meeting and also the studying together. So this is also another experiment or experience that you can use to find a MOOC. You don't have to do a MOOC, yes, but if you're interested in it, I think it's a great way to use a small amount of time each week and just do it. And Shadia said, you can have your beer during class. Yes, great. Sure. We can also have a drinking game. In one of the courses I was in, there was a drinking game. And sometimes, very, very late at night, people tend to become crazy. Okay. And also, just a minute, Jay. Exactly. Learning how others are designing and teaching MOOCs. Yes, great. That's one of the main thing that my main purposes in going into MOOCs. Wow, Ovid, that's a great story. Also, another point that I wanted to make was that as teachers, you can be a student, you can be a teacher, but you can also be something in between. And for the last point I'd like to make is just describe something that is going on right now in high schools all over Israel, which is the How to MOOC venture. Did you hear about it? Those Israeli educators around here. Okay. Oh, and Athar, I see your question. I'll deal with it in a minute, but just let us talk a little bit about how to MOOC. University students, and in general, most students who go into MOOCs, as we saw before and as we said before, don't finish. Not that completion is the main goal of the exercise. Yes, I don't think that people have to complete a MOOC. MOOC is voluntary or should be. And you have to study what you are interested in. But people who really care about finishing a MOOC, whether they need the certificate or maybe it's part of a formal program of education, there's a very interesting project that has really contributed a lot to the rate of completion of MOOCs here in Israel. And I'd like to tell you about that. This is a project by Education Cities organization and the Department of Education in about, quite a few schools by now. High school students are taking MOOCs with their teachers, and they're doing it as a group. They pick a MOOC which is interesting to them and also part of the education program that they have in this year. But there are very various kind of MOOCs. Some of them are scientific, some of them are social studies, etc. The teacher is not the teacher of the subject, okay? The teacher is also a student in this context, but the job of this teacher is to be the coach. They have a model of treating the group as if they were a team. And this whole team approach and using the MOOC material in a flipped classroom sort of way has contributed a lot to getting those students to finish. They're studying together as a group. People are teaching each other. People are preparing learning materials of their own to teach other people in the group. And the teacher is a moderator and also a coach, and trying to get all the students to stay on the same page, so to speak. And also, they have communication about this course in social media and in class also. So there's also the aspect of face-to-face communication and social media communication. And what they found was the combination of the team approach and the flipped classroom, studying at home and processing together the materials of the course, and the use of constant social connection. This is a very good solution to the problem of attrition and the problem of the leaving of the MOOCs, yes, and the very low completion rates that we see in courses throughout those MOOC providers and the different courses that we saw. And so these students have about 85% completion rates, which is something unheard of, even in the best courses. It might be a very good experience to you and to your students to try and do them together. And actually, this model can also be applied, of course, to people who are not students, high school students, etc. It is being applied in many courses where you have meetup teams that have organized meetings, sometimes weekly, sometimes bi-weekly, in order to sit down and study in coffee shops or in community centers, etc. You can think about that. In university, for example, we have a course in computer studies program in which there's a certain subject that is the students have to learn via MOOC, and they do it together. And it would be interesting to see at the end of the semester if it has improved the completion rates and the understanding of the material, of course, and the final exam results, which we would know about after, I think, at the end of February. So, any questions, comments, things that you would like to say in conclusion about a model that I told you about, or other thoughts about using using a MOOC in your class or using a MOOC with your students. A MOOC on how to MOOC, I think there are some MOOCs about that. There were, at least, European ones. This is for Nelly.
Tami.
Ken.
Aryeh.
Yes.
Can you give examples of tools that encourage interaction between the students and between the students and the teacher?
Okay. In MOOC. Well, look at the platform itself, okay?
Except the forum.
Except the forum, of course. Okay, so if you're talking interaction, some MOOCs have live meetings. And a live meeting is a great opportunity to talk about the course, to get to know each other, to ask questions, to invite experts, and so on. So if you have a Hangout or Facebook Live meeting and you have everybody knows when it's going to happen, it's an event, and they prepare questions beforehand and so on. This is a great way to improve communication because people get to know each other. They even get to know how you look because they have open cameras and so on. This is one way. Another way is to do stuff together because many times the problem of communication is a problem of shyness. Some people are not very comfortable in approaching others, even on the forum, even anonymously. So this can be a very good way. If you do assignments in groups, people have to communicate with each other, and it doesn't really matter if it's through the platform or via social media or even telephone, okay? Nowadays, it's no problem. So this is another way, and writing stuff together, doing something together, taking pictures, making a movie. Many projects in MOOCs, real-life projects, are done by groups or teams. So this is another way to improve communication. Other questions? Yes. Example of a MOOC that was taking with students? Yes, MOOCs in robotics, MOOCs in all kinds of bio or something. I have a list. So if you want that, I'll try to make up a list. Open astronomy, because you know of a course like that? Yes. There was a list. I think every year it's different courses, but I think the main thing is to pick up a subject that you are really interested in and that the students are interested in, and that it's not only a very kind of pedantic course, but the course has to be exciting and have nice activities in it, because either you'll want them to be active and to be collaborative and to be enthusiastic about what they are doing, and this would be your job to try to foster this kind of feeling. So this is, I think, the main key to choosing well a course to do with students. Okay, to summarize, I think that if you haven't taken a MOOC, do so as an exercise. I would really recommend that. You don't have to finish anything, you don't have to write, but try, because it's a very good experience. You learn a lot about yourself, and you learn a lot about learning online and teaching online from taking a MOOC. And we would be happy to hear your experiences. I at least will be. And it would be a great addition, I think, to your toolbox as an educator. If you are conversed in knowing how to learn in an online course, which MOOC is one type of. I'd love to hear about your own innovative uses of this format, of course, or any kind of online course that you do in school. I would also add, and this is for the professional development aspect, that you as teachers can work together to create professional development courses for your own school, for your own district, for your own needs. And this would be much more flexible because you would not have to be considerate of people who are not known to you. You will know the people, you will know the needs, and you can do small parts or small MOOCs or learning units, which should be online and open to new teachers, to teachers of certain subjects, and so on. This, I think, is a great experience, a great learning experience, and a great professional development experience. Okay, so I think taking a MOOC with your family, that's a great idea, Nelly. Okay? My son tried to convince me to learn Java with him, but he didn't succeed. So with your children is a great, I think could be a great experience if you are having fun. Okay, everyone, I think we're nearing the end of our time together. Thank you very much for all your comments, and it was very interesting for me to meet you all. And I would really like to hear more about your experiences if you have extra comments. And if you have no further questions, I'll bid you farewell and good night, and a very, very happy week ahead. Thank you.
Tami, thank you. And to all of you, thanks again for joining us. And we are waiting to meet you again on Thursday. Have a good day.
Bye-bye.